minute. Which one do you want to work on first?
Particularly this,
The larch.
the larch. This one was left quite a lot last year. Obviously with the extensions I pruned back,
Right.
but there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Because I had so many trees, I just couldn't keep on top of them.
Yeah, it needs simplifying.
Yeah.
Right. I'm presuming that your front, or you think the front's around about this vicinity
Yeah, I
in
think
here?
so, yeah.
Right. I mean, from here, this section at the back here is kind of hidden a little bit. And because it's hidden, as the trunk goes up like this, you can see part of it sticking out from the side there, and it gives that illusion of inverse taper.
Right, okay.
And it hasn't got inverse taper. So,
Because
why
I think
don't
we were debating, Sam, weren't we, whether we were going to remove, I think, a couple of big branches.
the only trouble is, if that bit there is removed, you're going to have a big bare patch in the back. It does give you that feeling of a bit of a strange section.
Yeah.
It's like a competition, right? Who's in charge here? Is it that one or is it that one? There is the possibility of actually taking this bit off. Yeah. The big thick one off. Right? And actually bringing the height of the tree down a bit. Because there's plenty on here.
Yeah. I'll be happy to do that.
And pull this around, because yes, there would be nothing on this side, but there's enough, the tree's giving you enough branch wise.
Yeah.
That there's enough to pull around and put a little bit of foliage in there, and then the flow of the tree would come down here, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we could utilise that front a little bit more, because the Nabari is quite good from there. I just find this section here not so nice.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
It just when it's in leaf, it looks too much. Do you know what I mean? It's a beautiful tree, but it looks top heavy.
You see the taper from into this, and where the apex is there for me is nicer.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. I'd be tempted to take that off.
Okay.
And carve that out in there. Remember, one of the things when you're styling a tree or looking to style a tree is the appropriate story of what's happened to the tree. Now, there's already a shari and some deadwood in there.
Yeah.
Right. Now, it wouldn't be away from the realms of possibility for, if that occurred, a lot of the tree on this side would die off as well.
All right.
Do you see what I mean? Because there's part of you is like, well, why did that die off if this bit was being protected by that bit?
Yeah.
Me personally, if it was my tree, and I always say to people, look, I'm not forcing anybody, and yes, I can advise people, and people go, well, I'll bring a tree over for you to give us advice on and all the rest of it. And I'll give you the advice on what I think. But you've got to take the tree home, you've got to look at it, you've got to have it in your garden. And if it's something, a style of tree that you're not so keen on, see, do you know what I mean? And we'll work with what we've got.
Yeah.
But me personally, if this was my tree, I would take this off.
Yeah.
Right?
It's something I've considered, if I'm honest. Because to me, it looks a little bit out of proportion, how thick this is compared to how big this is and how tall it is.
Yeah.
So,
and you've got the apex, would have to bring it back over that way a little bit because it's too far over that. But the tree's going to have done that because it's grown out to the light. I would leave this branch on here for the minute, right? Simply because, although this is a nice branch, it is coming from the inside of a bend, which isn't the most ideal situation. But the trouble also with that is, you know, all of these things like branches coming from the inside of a bend and inverse taper and all the rest of it, again, they're only guideline. If you've got a piece of Yamadori, you get what you get, especially with conifers. If that was all it was going to give you, you've got to go with that, because if you chop it off, the tree's dead.
Yeah.
So the other side of the coin where that's concerned is, you see, if you take that off, that section there to me is going to look even straighter. It kind of comes down here and then bends round like that. Now if that is off, can you see that section there is quite straight?
Yeah.
Now we can hide some of that with the way we would place some of these branches around about. So, but at the minute, I should have brought my little chainsaw.
I was just thinking I haven't brought a saw with me.
I would take, now leave enough to do a little bit of carving on, right?
I can guarantee Richard's got one. Look, he's got it in his bag.
He's gone for a rummage. What I would do first...
I thought you...
Right, I'm just having a little think here.
Thanks, Richard.
I think what we'll do first is we'll take off that branch, that branch, that branch, that branch, and all the stuff in the apex, because the idea is we may dead wood stuff quite a bit higher, so hollow it all out and really make something of it, of the dead part of the tree.
Right.
It might not work, it might look a bit too thick and chunky, and it might detract from this nice section here.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we remove these branches, it would then put the energy into these anyway, wouldn't they? So these would be healthier, and then we can think about what we're doing with that afterwards, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bear in mind also, that seems to be one of the watchwords of this, so bear in mind. Don't let the bark on this dry on too long, because it's a nightmare to get it off when it's dried on.
Okay.
Right, so taking these branches off,
yeah,
I'd get the bark off as well, to be fair.
Nice.
Right. And then what you do with the dead wood after that, we can make a little decision. So,
practicing a little bit of
remember
carving.
this, we're keeping that branch for now.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna gin all of that, make sure you don't put that branch under any. It may come off. It may come off, but I just want to keep that for now and just see how it goes with the initial design. Okay, because I think I quite like the idea of the flow of the tree going that way. Leaving that one and that one is going to make the tree too wide, I feel. And making the tree smaller and putting the flow on this side gives more power to the bottom of the tree. Having them too tall, it makes the tree look a little bit more insignificant, even though we know it's not. That little one can come off. That little one there. That one. Keep that one, keep that one. With stripping the needles, right? That's... Oh, have you not?
I can see where there's no checking to see if there's anything behind.
That one off, that one off, that one off.
You wait on wire.
You've got to put wire on first and then chop the wire off. Right, so let's have a little look.
So that's both in the same condition.
Both good tree. I'm sure that's got thicker since I've seen it the last time.
Look, I look after my trees.
You do, you do. Right, so...
Do we know what type of larch these are?
Japanese.
Japanese, because of the branches a bit red, is that right?
The colour of the twigs is a bit of an indicator. When they're kind of that orangey, reddy colour, that's a Japanese larch. They're more like a straw colour when it's the European larch. Right, now, how long have they been on? They look like they've been on.
There's 3 last years.
Yeah. Did it have lots of cones? No. A few cones are fine left, but if your larch produces loads of cones like they sometimes do, don't let them get too far, because they do take a lot of energy from the tree, and I have found in the past when there's lots and lots of cones on a branch, the branch dies because it takes up too much energy. If you think about the tree in nature, a big tall tree, if the tree has masses of cones on and a branch dies on the tree, it's neither here nor there to a big tree. Do you know what I mean? If it sheds a branch.
I think what I was told many years ago was that a weak tree will throw out lots of cones because they want to reproduce. So they produce lots of seeds. A good strong tree doesn't need to reproduce. They feel comfortable, and that is why they don't get as many cones on as some do.
I've heard that as well. I wouldn't like to say
me neither, but
whether or not that is actually true or not. There'd probably be more experienced people out there, especially people who are more up on the botanical side of things, that would probably be able to tell. But it's also, if you think about it, you know, pines flower, and a lot of botanical scientists still don't know what it actually is that makes one pine flower 1 year and then not for about 3 years, and then it'll suddenly flower again, and they don't know why, what it is that, you know, there was some people have said, is it fertilizer, is it stress, is it after it's been repotted, is it, but there's never been any actual conclusive evidence for any of them things to be correct. So maybe it's the same with Larch, I don't know. Right, so anyway, these trees are looking really good. They just need maybe one of the things with Larch is they get thick. The branches and twigs get thick very quickly, right? So they're one of them trees. All bonsai gets to a certain stage in its bonsai journey where it needs to be. It gets to its optimum level, and it might go in an exhibition or whatever, and then over time these certain branches need to be cut out because they get thick, they get too wide, they get, you know. With Larch, that cutting back process is done earlier than I think on a lot of other trees, simply because they do get thick quite quickly. So for the sake of argument here, you see that C-shaped foliage part that I'm always seem to be quite obsessed with. You see how it's getting quite thick here, and you've got buds all coming from in here. You might want to cut that out. You might want to even go further and cut that out and cut that out and start to rebuild, right? I know it's quite hard and you feel like crying after you've built a tree up over all them years, and then you've got to kind of rebuild it. But it's an incredibly important part of the art of bonsai, is getting it at a good level, and then getting in and then pruning back and not starting again, but building the process again. So one of the things I think we're going to do with both of these trees today is doing a little bit of pruning. I don't think you need to put much in the way of wire on. He goes, yes.
I think the question, you remember last year when we did that? Both of them. And I think that the branches, we took them down a bit.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether they look as though they might have lifted a little bit.
I think that one does look like it has. It maybe wants to come down a little bit more. And even because, although it's quite nice to have kind of these drop branches and these kind of bigger negative spaces in between in certain areas, sometimes it can be too much. But this isn't too bad, because you see, you've got a negative space between there and there.
Yeah.
But it's given it depth and it's filled in because you've got a drain there and you've got the back branch that's shown and given a little bit of something there in the background. If that wasn't there, if you'd imagine that was gone, that to me would be too open.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and it might be a case of, rather than pulling the main branch down, it might just want a little bit, just these sections here. You see how that one there is starting to go back up.
Yeah.
And again, this is generally what most trees do. Remember, they're all phototropic. They want to grow up to the light. It doesn't know it's a bonsai. It just wants to get big and tall and send all its growth up to the light. So it is a thing that we have to do from time to time, is just get some wire on and just pull some of these down. At that stage, yeah,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's they're really good, the fact that they haven't got any wire on at all, and it's one of the things that we all kind of want to strive to get to our trees to a level to exhibit, and they've got no wire on. That's spot on. It won't ever stay like that, as in what I mentioned before, the branches will start to move up, the twigs will start to go up to the light, and then they need to have wire on again and pull down. But at present, it's the fact of enjoying them in that kind of natural state without any kind of wire on, if you know what I mean. So let's do the best we can with them, with doing a bit of pruning. It's like that one in there, could do with coming off, a little twig in there, could do with coming off, and just getting rid of some of the really thick bits, because obviously when it starts to grow in the spring and you get some extensions out, that's when you start to get these nice bits of taper in there. So yeah, we'll not go crackers with it, because I think we're kind of going to spoil it a little bit, and I'm not quite at that stage yet. So
Just these then, Caz. Where I cut them back last year, I mean, obviously these were a lot longer,
yeah,
and I've cut them back to a certain point, usually where there's been a bud. Would you now take these little shoots back to...
Well, remember, you still want to build some ramification on the tree, right? And larch have a tendency to put on these bud parties, right? Yeah. At the base here, and you can already see there's 4 buds from the same point. So if you were to cut that back there and not do anything with them buds, you're just going to get a lump, and this is kind of what happens. So some of these you want to keep, you want to have them as some nice fine ramification, but you're going to need to go over the tree with a fine tooth comb, and any buds that are pointing down or in a crotch or where you've got these bud parties going on, have a little look and think, right, now what direction are they going to end up growing in? So that one on the top there is going to go straight up. If there's a one on the bottom, it's going to go straight down. Now, the ones on the bottom going straight down, you want to get rid of them. Some of the top ones, you do want to leave some of them, and that's going to add some of the volume into the foliage pads. But one of the things I tend to do with larch, I like to leave them to grow in the spring and let them extensions come out. And I like to look at the extension and see the little bobbles, the light green buds starting to develop along the extension. And then I know I can cut back to one of them buds in the right bud direction, right? Because if you cut back and there's no bud, so you see you've got here, there is no bud there, they're only there. When the tree loses its needles in the autumn time, you're left with a dead stub from there to there. So I tend to like to leave it, so you see you've cut it back there and there's a couple of buds there, but that there could come off. It snips out. You see how there's no bud from there to there, and there isn't going to be a bud, so they can come off, that can come off. And in a way, that's been a little bit of a missed opportunity for ramification.
Right.
So if you let them extend, it'll go past the point of it, and so it'll look a little bit unruly, but make sure the tree's been let develop buds along here. So then you'd have a bud like there, so you could grow another section out there. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Rather than it just having masses and masses of buds. I mean, there's blinking 5 on that one.
Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice and healthy. It's great. But another thick section here, do you see that bit there? you've got,
Check that one.
I see,
Check the thick lump off.
take that bottom thick one off, and then you start to rebuild with the likes of that, right? So have a little look over the trees, and just think, right, which buds do I need to keep? So you want buds that are on the side, you want some buds on the top, so they're going to form a little bit of a volume in the pad. Anything underneath, take off. Anything in a crotch, take off. So you're just looking at bud direction. But Steve, you're an incredibly experienced person in this, so I've probably just told you a whole load of things you knew anyway. So
what I would normally have done is cut them back to where there's a live bud that's possibly going to develop. That would take place roundabout now in the winter time. And then in the spring, as soon as the green starts showing up, that's when I would start looking at the buds and start taking some of the shoots, the buds off.
Yeah, I mean,
that are going to create these big clusters.
Yeah, some people do leave it and so that they know that the tree it's live, it's viable, and all the rest of it. And if that's what some people want to do, that's fine. Just be careful though that you don't end up wasting the tree's energy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It might, because you can end up having way too many buds. The tree's pushing all of that energy. There's a whole load of buds starting to come out, and then you come along. But the tree's already pushed a lot of energy into them. Generally, you can tell a lot of the branches are fine on larch. They go kind of a bit of a wizened colour. The buds are tiny. Even before the tree loses its needles, often they'll produce these spurs, and often they can produce the spurs with a rosette of needles year after year after year. And you can often tell them spurs are years old because they're like a little line with a rosette on each end. And sometimes, every now and again, it might be the fact that you've pruned it, or the way you fertilised it, or you've placed it in a different part in the garden, and it pushes the tree on to make all of a sudden them spurs will start to elongate.
Right.
But just be aware not to waste the tree's energy. But both of these trees are great. They're great trees. Maybe, you see that lumpy bit there?
Yeah.
I think I would possibly take some of the bark off that and refine them gins a little bit more. Yeah. And taking that off there would take that lump away a little bit. Also, I think maybe it's a little bit open.
Right.
Maybe one or two of the branches have sprung a little bit. I would maybe start to think about growing on and just bringing a little bit of foliage over. You don't want to hide that because it's a nice little feature.
I think this little bit, because there's no foliage on it now, it looks a lot more than it does once it gets the foliage.
Right.
But I think, even that branch could probably be quite a bit further. But it does tend to hide this.
It's just one or two little bits could do with just coming round a little bit, because I mean, obviously, I think this was a piece of Willowbond material, wasn't it?
I don't know where it
right.
I can't remember it was. Obviously, I recognised it from being collected.
Right.
That one was Willowbond.
That one was Willowbond.
Right, I was going to say, because they do look Willowboggy material, because Peter was quite well known for his collection of larch. His larch from, and some of them are really quite unusual, and this is one of the ones that is quite kind of unusual, you know, and it just wants a few little tweaks here and there, but I think the main job is to just refine. You're up that refinement level where just take out some of the big clumpy bits, the thick bits, and think about replacing with some of the others, and do a bit of bud selection. But when you're pruning back, just be careful to make sure, you see how you've pruned back that one there, and there's a bud there, that's good, and there's a bud there. But this one here, you've pruned back and there hasn't been a bud along that stretch, so that bit there, there's nothing. Do you see what I mean? So just be aware, that's why and it's the way I do. people have different ways of doing things, and nothing's, if it works for them, that's great. But I always let mine extend and extend quite a way until I can see the tree wanting to develop buds along them new extensions, and you can see in amongst the needles the little bobbles of the buds, and then I'll cut them back to a bud.
Yeah, I think that's what I did. And these that have got the buds at the end have been the secondary growth on the.
Right.
So this will have been, that will have grown to there, I'll have cut it off.
Yeah, you
and
can
then
see where
this is grown, so it's, probably I do basically the same.
I think
you do.
You see how you've got that thick bit there?
Yeah.
Right, and then you've got a thinner bit here and a thinner bit here. Take that section out the middle.
Yeah.
Right, and start to put a little bit of tape, and you've got a little bit of lumpiness going on. You see, that's that one underneath with a few buds on. You need to just get in there and just get it neatened up a little bit. And even this slot here, you see that bud is going to go back in. So take the little stub off and then just take that bud off. That bud's going to come out in this direction. The whole thing might want to come out. Do you know what I mean? So it's the refinement process is extremely important to get the best out of your trees. So you see you've got quite a lot going on here, right? That one there is grown back into the tree. So do we take it there, right? Or do we take the whole lot off, which is what I would do here. And you see, you just remember 2 into 2, oops, into 2, into 2, into 2.
Yep.
Right, it simplifies everything, and you get a lot more kind of refined. It makes wiring loads easier.